Hello, I am Joshua P. Warren, and this is Joshua P. Warren Daily. And I have a wishing machine success story for you. I am pretty excited about this, and you should be as well. And this should give you some inspiration if you haven't gotten it already. Less than 2 months ago, all of this lockdown business really kicked in hard, at least here in the United States of America. And at that time, we were being told, look, folks, there is no end in sight. This lockdown could go on for the rest of the year easily. Millions of people are going to die. I mean, it was nothing but horrific doom and gloom and worst case scenarios 24/7 on the TV. And so I came onto this podcast and I said to all of you who are into manifestation and positivity, I said, listen, Jedis, now is a time for us to get together and get off our asses, work together, and take some action all over the world. But especially here in the United States, because look, even though people listen to this show all over the world, most of my listeners are in the United States, which makes sense because I was born and raised here, so I know a lot of people here. And I travel all over this country all the time. And so I said, look, we've got to do something. This is it can't happen. The rest of the year, millions of people. We went to work in stages. And, I'm not going to go over each one of those stages, but we started with a general energy, a positive energy, and we kept reducing it down and condensing it and focusing it step by step, stage by stage. And less than a week ago, I got on this podcast and I said, I am now talking to those of you primarily who have a wishing machine. And here is the where we need to be right now. Okay, this is a very important key. This is one of the big last steps in just locking all this work in. I gave you instructions on how to take your machine and do something that I don't ordinarily recommend, but this case is an exception. Take your machine and focus it on a person in a position of leadership in your world, okay? Whatever country or area you're in, use your wishing machine. Focus on that individual who is in a decision-making position and give that person some wisdom, some enlightenment, a little wake-up call. So, and if you want to know more about that, the process, you can go back and listen to the podcast. It was 2 podcasts ago. Again, it was less than a week ago. So I gave instructions on how to take that final step. And actually, interestingly enough, for me, ironically, I didn't even get around to doing that step myself until 3 days ago. And the reason is I had all my machines working on some other projects. And so that's the problem when you get involved with wishing machines. Eventually, you kind of run out of wishing machines because you got them all working on different things. And you're like, oh, I need more wishing machines. And I have a bunch of wishing machines, trust me, but a lot of them are in North Carolina right now. So I need to get a bunch of them over here. Anyway, I was just finishing up a project with one of my wishing machines. And so I cleared it. And 3 days ago, I retuned it. And I focused on the leadership here in the state of Nevada, where I am. I'm in Las Vegas now. And this state has been one of the strictest states in the country. Okay, the governor, Sisolak here, was one of the first governors to come out and shut down everything. And he has not budged. Protests and everything, just, water off a duck's back. And he was basically saying, I will revisit where we are on May 15th, a whole other week away. 3 days ago, I set my machine here in the state of Nevada. And today, this is Thursday afternoon, May 7th, 2020, much to everyone's surprise, the governor gave a press conference and said, I have decided that tomorrow night at midnight, we are going to go into phase one of opening this state, meaning restaurants get to open, retail outlets get to open, salons, barbershops, all that stuff gets to open. Marijuana dispensaries get to open. Okay. Everybody was amazed. Everybody was shocked. They thought he would say, well, on May 15th, I'll have another announcement for you. But no, he came out today, 3 days after I set this machine, and made this announcement. And to be honest with you, this is saving me a trip because I was about to travel to another state in order to accomplish some things that I wanted to accomplish. Now I don't have to do that. And I will say, as a side note, as is common with these phase one reopenings wherever they're happening, he's still not going to open up bars or casinos and entertainment venues till down the road. He has said that when you have a phase, you can't expect the next phase until 2 or 3 weeks later. And basically opening up bars and entertainment venues is going to probably be somewhere in stage 3 or 4. So that is why I had to postpone my Finding Your Magic event that was originally scheduled for May 29th and 30th. So as you can see, that was the correct decision because there's no way that I am able to have access to this venue. The venue is going to be shut down. So that it worked out for the wise, and I want to thank all of you who had tickets for understanding that and for hanging in there, because as soon as I announced the new date, then let me tell you, it's actually going to be a bigger, better event in so many ways now. It's going to be richer because we're going to have more to talk about, and this experience has even given me some ideas for new topics that I want to squeeze into this. For example, I've never done a conference where I've really gotten into detail about how to use some of these special attachments that you can plug into your wishing machines. Like, that's a really cool topic that goes into a lot of different directions. And so I'm going to take this, we're going to go over a lot in the conference, but one thing is I'm going to dig into topics regarding the wishing machine that I've never even talked about before. So it's going to be good. But anyway, this is very exciting that out of the blue, the governor decided, okay, tomorrow night at midnight, we're going to start this opening process. And look, I'm not saying I'm taking all the credit for this. I'm just saying, look, here's the fact. I told you what to do. I did it in my neck of the woods. And 3 days later, boom, look what's happened. Everybody's surprised. And also, I have plenty of friends and family in North Carolina. That's where I was born and raised. That's where I have the Haunted Asheville Ghost Tours. And I have a lot of people there with wishing machines working on the state of North Carolina. Guess what? North Carolina also is going to start their opening this weekend. So hopefully by the end of this month, we'll be able to do Haunted Asheville Ghost Tours again. And we've taken this thing that they were telling us would last forever, the rest of the year, and kill millions of people, and we have just zapped it. Now, yes, it's taken some time because we have been up against a huge, big, overwhelming enemy. And I know that there are people who are saying, oh, but just wait, it's going to cycle back around again. Well, you know what? If that is going to happen, we are going to stay on top of this, and we're going to fight it. We're going to continue fighting it at every step of the way. So I'm telling you this because if you have not reset your machine, if you have a wishing machine and you have not reset it to do what I told you to do in my latest instructions 2 podcasts ago, then let this be inspiration for you. If you're still sitting there and you're in lockdown and there's no tangible end in sight, I'm telling you, do this. Do this, because you're not by yourself. You're plugged into a network of minds and consciousness all over the world, including me. and everybody else who has a wishing machine. We're like a big brain, we're like a big network, and we can take that energy and we can shift it wherever it needs to go. It's almost like the power of every machine that's working is somehow condensed into your machine. And that's funny because Dr. Mulder has talked about that concept before, because the one thing all these machines have in common that are all around the world is that he made them. He made them with his own hands. And so that alone produces some type of cohesive system, some network there that brings this all together. And if you have a wishing machine that he didn't make, I'm sure it can still be plugged into the system. But there's something very particular about realizing that you're not sitting there alone with your machine. Your machine is part of a larger network. So not only are we making progress in that arena with just places opening, but also people are having an awakening. They are having some type of epiphany regarding how this lockdown strategy has not been the best strategy to deal with this. Look, there is no nice way to deal with the pandemic. Okay, when a pandemic hits, it's going to suck. I mean, people are going to die. There is going to be a price to pay. But I posted this on my social media. You may have seen it. Of course, in the United States, no place has been hit harder than New York City. Governor Cuomo there in New York State, he surprised everybody because he's really been hammering this lockdown thing. He surprised everybody by yesterday saying it turns out that most of the people in New York who are being hospitalized for COVID-19 have been staying at home. And now how much is most? Listen to this, 66%. 66%. I mean, he sat down and gave a press conference and he said, yeah, this is shocking, even to me. He says, he said nobody was expecting this. That of the people being hospitalized, 66% of them are people who are staying at home. And he supposedly said that they've looked into whether or not there are exceptions to this. Are these people who are traveling in some way they weren't accounting for? And it's like, no. By all ways of measuring and documenting, these people were people who were staying at home. 66%. The runner-up was nursing homes, and that was only 18%. Now think about that. Nursing homes, we're talking about the people who are the most vulnerable, the people who are old, the people who have the most health problems, and they were only at 18%. And then all other areas, like if you're in jail or homeless or whatever, all that was 8% or less. For example, of the people who were in jail, only 1%. So the overwhelming majority of people who have gotten this are people who stayed at home. Now, the reason is, one would imagine that when people stay at home, you're forcing people to stay together. And when, people, for one thing, you're inevitably going to have some people who just say, screw it. Like I told you, I have a friend who has a teenage daughter who he found out was sneaking out of the house and visiting her boyfriend. Well, that's reality, okay? That's going to happen. And then, you go to the grocery store, who knows, one person gets sick. Well, now you come back home and you bring it to everybody. It's like I posted this meme on my Facebook page where there's a guy sitting alone on the beach and there is a policeman standing there, and the policeman says something to the effect of, get off this beach, it's not safe here, go over to that Walmart. So the guy's sitting there with the wind blowing and there's nobody around, and somehow he's better off going to Walmart. So again, the point is, we're starting to see the logic here that if you're forcing people to compress together, it's inevitable that that virus is going to hit through the population. And so the worst thing you can do is force those people to be around other people, because people naturally have a tendency to spread out. It's not, we don't all just cram together all the time like this. You usually spread out. So that's why it's great that we now have this drilled into our heads about washing your hands and social distancing and all that. And that's great. We should actually be doing that more than we do it. I understand shaking hands has never been a good idea. Okay, it never has. We'd be better off if we bowed to each other, I guess. But nonetheless, we're learning some lessons there. But this whole lockdown thing has not been the best way of handling and containing this. And you know what's funny? I did something that I've never done before in my entire life. I've done a lot of things in terms of creativity. I've written books and screenplays and children's books and rhyme and novels with terrible violence, and I've written songs, and I've done a lot of stuff like that. But I just had this flash one night. I went into my bathroom, and I'd been just letting my hair kind of go for a while and my beard grow out. And Lauren said she's never seen my hair this long. So I had this big bushy head of hair, and I had this big beard, and my beard is getting white now, because I'm in my 40s. So one day I'm going to look like Santa Claus, I guess. And so I look at myself with all my hair growing out and everything, and I had this funny vision of how, when we always think about people in the future, we think about it being all space age and slick, and they're in their flying cars, or they got their laser guns. But in reality, um, the people in the future right now are starting to look like a bunch of raggedy old cavemen who, somebody who's been stranded on a deserted island for a while. And so I came up with this idea for a one panel comic where you have a couple, it says circa 2019. All right, that's the key to this. And you have a couple of good old boys who are just relaxing at a bar, having a beer, and then off to the side of the panel, the door is open, and there is this raggedy guy standing there with bushy hair and a bushy beard, and he's got kind of tattered clothes on. And back behind him, outside the door, you see a DeLorean sitting there with the gull wing doors open. That's the car from Back to the Future. And so one of the good old boys in the bar says, "Look what the cat dragged in." And the second guy goes, "Where are you from, mister?" And the guy in the doorway goes, "I'm from the future." Okay. So again, the humor there is that in 2019, if you thought about the future, you probably weren't thinking of, somebody who's been in social isolation for months and can't get a haircut and is getting pretty grungy, right? So that was the joke. So I drew a rough sketch of this, and I hired an artist to actually make this finished, polished comic panel for me. What a fun thing to do. I'm going to do this again in the future because now my mind is running wild with ideas. Anyway, because I posted this on my Twitter and Facebook, and there was one person who said, "I don't get it." So that was the humor. I'm not saying it's like super hilarious or anything, but it just seemed like a quirky thing to me, that we always have this imagination that the future is going to be some sophisticated place, when actually the future might end up being a real shitstorm. And we better not take for granted the good things that we have right now, because who knows what the future is going to look like in reality. But I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling good. I'm going to continue staying on top of this. I hope that you'll do the same thing in your neck of the woods. And it's funny because sometimes thinking about the future, I see a news story sometimes that kind of makes me feel good. It makes me feel back to normal after your brain's been just beaten and battered with COVID-19 and coronavirus and China and just like all this stuff constantly being beaten to your head. I saw this news story. Maybe you've seen this as well. Tom Cruise is going to be the first real actor to be blasted into outer space to film an entire feature film in outer space. And yeah, he's working with NASA. They've announced this officially. They presume that SpaceX is going to be involved. So Tom Cruise, what a life that guy's had. It won't. The good news is it's not going to cost that much to blast him up there. He's a pretty small little thing, you know. I've never met him, but they say you could just pick him up with one hand. So they might just put some helium balloons on him and let him go. I don't know how they're going to get him up there exactly, but I presume it'll be very dramatic. And they're going to blast him up there to the International Space Station, and they say this is going to be the first like real professional Hollywood full feature action movie ever shot in outer space. And I read that and I thought, you know what? This makes me kind of feel like I'm getting back to normal again. And, you know, because again, there's just such an American ring to that, right? America, we invented movies here. You know, Thomas Edison invented movies. And we were the first to walk on the moon, man. Like, we're the space people. And it's just like a comforting thing, like, oh, Tom Cruise is going to go into space and make a movie. And stories like that, oddly enough, they make you kind of feel like this is the sort of thing that we should be talking about right now. We shouldn't be talking about the demise of all civilization. It gives us something to look forward to. I want to see that movie. Don't you want to see that movie? Who's not going to watch that movie? Seriously, even if you hate those kinds of movies, even if you don't like Tom Cruise, who's not going to watch a movie, the first movie ever, shot in outer space? And you know it's going to be a huge IMAX spectacle, and they're going to have all kinds of different formats, some of those interactive things, 4D, 5D, 6D, and you're going to go sit down there and you're going to be immersed in outer space with Tom Cruise, and they're going to make a big deal of saying, like, this is not a special effect, folks. This is real space shit that you're seeing. We could have done this easily on Earth with special effects, but no. Shit is floating around for real. Okay, that shit is floating around. So, and I mean, Tom Cruise, you know, he's going to be floating super easy. He practically floats here on Earth. So that's good news, I guess, right? Things are looking positive. They're picking up. And right as this has happened, something interesting also has come into my household. You know, I'm very particular about what I bring into my household because after all these years of collecting different types of weird things, I realized that when you collect something that has a significant history, especially, or a certain design, it's got an energy, it's got a spirit. And that's why a lot of times people say that they want to send me something that is, they say, I want to send you something that's an exhibit or a gift or something to put on display or whatever. And sometimes I just have to say, gosh, that's awful nice of you, and I think it's a fascinating thing, but nah, I'd rather not have it for one reason or another. I mean, I have people who contact me and say, I have this blood-stained knife that was used to murder this person. And I say, nah, look, Zach Bagans, his whole mystery, he calls it a haunted museum. Mine was the mystery museum. His is a haunted museum. His museum has got just the most dark, creepy, spiritually attached stuff you could possibly imagine. I'm very careful about bringing that stuff into my energetic circles. And as you get older, you have to be more and more careful about that. But anyway, my friend Forrest Connor, he sent me something that I just got yesterday that I was really happy to have come into my life at this point. Forrest is, of course, I've known Forrest for, I don't know, 20 years. He was my producer at the radio show for a long time, and we've done TV shows together, and he's just been, a great friend, and he's practically like a brother to me. And Forrest is working now as an international flight attendant. So you never know what country he's going to be in. And he contacted me the other day because he was in Bulgaria. You know where Bulgaria is? Well, of course, I've been to Transylvania and investigated all of Vlad the Impaler's castles and stuff. Well, Transylvania is in Romania. And Bulgaria is just south of Romania. They literally border each other. So it's the country on the southern border of Romania is Bulgaria. And then you have the sea there to the right. And so anyway, Forrest was there, and he said it's just beautiful. He posted all these pictures of Bulgaria. He said he didn't realize it was so beautiful. And he went into this shop, and he saw this little doll. And he started inquiring, and it turns out that in Bulgaria, they have this tradition of what is called the kukeri. Now, I don't know if you pronounce it that way or maybe it's kukeri, but I'm just going to say the kukeri. And what that means is that some of these Bulgarians, they dress up in these outlandish outfits, and they carry on these rituals where they're running around villages and dancing and all this, and they are trying to ward off evil spirits and attract good fortune. So before I read the actual definition for you, like a typical one, there are various costumes, but let me just describe this doll that he sent me. This doll is probably like, I don't know, maybe 6 inches tall. And I'll post a picture of it for you on my Twitter. It's like 6 inches tall and has a big, speaking of bushy hair, big, tall, bushy hair, kind of looks like a headdress, almost like a long, vertical kind of Native American looking mask on with big penetrating eyes, kind of a long goat beard, very, very furry form. Looks kind of like the Krampus. Suspenders, a belt, and big bells all around the belt. Jangling bells. Ding, 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 ding. Those kind of bells. That's what the doll looks like. And so that's similar to what the costumes look like. You have guys running around who are dressed this way, and they have there's no telling how heavy these bells are. So when you get a bunch of these dudes running through your town, I mean, it's got to just be the most terrible ruckus. So here is what it actually says here on the Wikipedia page about the kukeri. It says they are elaborately costumed Bulgarian men and sometimes women who perform traditional rituals intended to scare away evil spirits. Closely related traditions are found throughout the Balkans and Greece. The costumes cover most of the body and include decorated wooden masks of animals, sometimes double-faced, and large bells attached to the belt. Around New Year and before Lent, the kukeri walk and dance through villages to scare away evil spirits with their costumes and the sound of their bells. They are also believed to provide a good harvest, health, and happiness to the village during the year. The kukeri traditionally visit people's houses at night so that, quote, the sun would not catch them on the road, end quote. After parading around the village, they usually gather at the village square to dance wildly and amuse the people. Kukeri rituals vary by region, but remain largely the same in essence. And they say this goes back thousands of years to the Thracian Dionysius cult is what they believe, which Dionysius is like some kind of god of plenty, like a Greek god of harvest, winemaking, fertility, religious ecstasy, festivity. So anyway, it's spelled K-U-K-E-R-I, K-U-K-E-R-I, if you want to look into this. So Forrest found this little doll, that is supposed to, well, it's a little cookery doll, and it's supposed to ward off evil spirits and bring in health and good fortune. And it arrived yesterday. And so I took this little thing and I put it on my mantle right there in the center of my living room. And since then, boom, it's just like good, positive things have been happening. Transitions are occurring, doors are opening, and I'm really starting to feel like that we're shifting in a positive direction. Spring is springing, right? And so thank you very much, Forrest. I appreciate that immensely. And if again, if somebody wants to send me something out there, I appreciate it, but always ask me first, because um, there are just certain things that I may or may not want to bring into my energetic circle for one reason or another, and I'm sure you understand that. But that's really cool. So now, hopefully, as we look toward the future, what we're seeing are brighter things, better things. There's no doubt about the fact that as the old ways continue to break down, there will be new, positive, productive growth. And we can do some wonderful things with technology if we're able to collectively come together and start respecting people more and not let the media continue to divide us. Because I think that's the worst thing. I don't think politicians would misbehave as much as they do if the media did not reward them for it by focusing on them for that behavior. So, in other words, if you're a politician and you want to get some media attention, you pretty much have to be a borderline asshole of some kind, and just to get their attention, because they like to focus on the outrageous stuff. And you know what? That's not good, because people, again, they get brainwashed by the mainstream media. They get freaked out. And you see what happens when people freak out. They'll just roll over and do whatever you tell them to do. They'll give up their rights. They'll do insane things. Um, it's we have to start um, shaming these media outlets that are trying to divide us and and enrage us and irritate us and break us and conquer us, by division. We have to start doing that. When they try to inflame the public intentionally by sort of rewarding politicians who do shitty things, that eventually trickles down into the mindset of the average person. And we just have to change that whole dynamic. And I know that's easier said than done, but I think this whole situation that we're going through right now is a big lesson. And like I was saying in my last podcast, I think we're going to turn around and look back on this, and we're going to say, you know what? This is not good. We need to do something about this. We need to change some things. And that will be an improvement, because we do have a positive future ahead of us if we choose that path. We're at a fork in the road, and we have to choose that path. And I was reading, did you read about what Stanford scientists have created? This is really cool, and I'll tell you why I think this is so interesting. Stanford scientists have created a sound so loud that it instantly boils water. Instantly boils water. And I'll read to you a little bit of this article. This is from CNET. It says researchers at the SLAC National Accelerator Laboratory based at Stanford University created an underwater sound so loud it instantly vaporizes water and appears to set the threshold for how intense sound can be in water. The scientists used a powerful X-ray laser to blast tiny jets of water with short pulses of high frequency energy. When the X-rays hit the microscopic stream of water, they instantly vaporize the water molecules around them like spit on a hot skillet. They also sent a shock wave traveling through the stream that can actually be seen moving left and right of the blast spot, and they actually have an image here on the article. It says what's interesting about this shock wave is that it's strong enough that it's easy to see how it's clearly disturbing the stream of water, but not enough that the molecules completely break down as they do at the point of contact with the powerful X-rays. The researchers suggest the pressure created by the shock waves was just below this breaking point. Okay, so basically what they're saying here, again in a nutshell, is they have an X-ray laser and they're able to shoot this into water and make it boil and change from instantly from liquid to gas. And you know what's funny is that I have been privy to sort of classified military projects where similar things have been done in order to vaporize physical objects, but that is on a very big grand scale. When you have some researchers here who are using some basically sort of, miniaturized scale technology in order to instantly vaporize water with sound. And what is sound? It's just vibrations. When I see stuff like that, I think immediately, you know what, if we can do that, then we ought to be pretty close to putting some kind of a system on maybe even a car or some type of a vehicle that will instantly vaporize ice on an icy road in the middle of winter. You know how many car accidents happen in the winter time just because of snowy, icy roads? And maybe you're lucky and somebody comes along and puts some salt around, but even then, it's kind of half-ass. What if you had some type of a beam in the front of your car that's literally breaking up that ice and vaporizing it 6 feet in front of your car as you travel along at 20 miles per hour? Think of what a revolutionary lifesaver that would be. Also, could this type of technology do something like extinguish a flame instantly? I have seen other devices where flames have been extinguished using sound cannons. And wouldn't it be great if we could get something that's so powerful that a helicopter could fly over one of these wildfires and blast the whole thing with sound? And maybe it'll be just as disturbing with fire as it is water. So this is really, it's got some big applications here because it doesn't take that much power to produce an X-ray. And making a laser is not complicated. You just have to, send it through the proper structure in order to condense whatever it is that you're producing. So in other words, this kind of seems like a rather low-cost, simple way of maybe producing a big effect that could change dramatically some of the natural problems that we have to deal with on a seasonal basis. And so, that's exciting to think that we might be able to see things like this come to fruition and be developed. So it's time to, really start thinking positively about what our new world is going to look like. And everybody's talking about the new normal. It doesn't have to be some kind of like a terrible new normal where everybody wears masks and nobody has an identity and all that. That's a dystopian view of things, but it doesn't have to be that way. We might be transforming and transitioning into a very positive era as long as we learn from what we've left behind and we make some improvements and some changes in our attitudes and our laws. So, hey, you know what? For the longest time now, I have been completely sold out of one of the most, actually, this is the most popular wand. I don't make wands anymore. I don't have time to do it. But the most popular wand that I made, and my wands, as soon as I'd announce a wand, they would always sell out. The most popular wand that I ever made was called the Forces of Nature wand. And this is a wand that has two magnets that are opposing each other, okay, producing an enormous amount of energy, like potential energy. Two magnets that are pressed together, forced together on their opposing side. So that's producing a huge amount of potential energy there. And a third magnet that is drawing that power away into a quartz crystal on the tip that also is seated on a coil. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this Forces of Nature wand, like I said, it's the most popular wand I've ever created. If you go to joshuapwarren.com and you go to the Curiosity Shop, you'll see it there. You can click on it and you can watch a video and you can see what this thing can do. It's been sold out for the longest time, and people have just kept emailing me and emailing me all over the world saying, when are you going to make more of those? When are you going to make more? And I don't have time to make new wands. But this is not technically a new wand because it's a wand that I made before. And I still had some of the parts around, but I was missing a few pieces. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make another small batch of these Forces of Nature wands for the people out there who really are, just like begging for one of these things. And so I am right now almost done with a whole new batch. It's not very big, it's a small batch, but a batch nonetheless of these Forces of Nature wands. And, when they're gone, they're gone. So if you have one and you know how cool they are, so you might want to get another one. If you don't have one, or maybe you've never heard of this, well, this is your opportunity to get a wand made in my workshop. Go to joshuapwarren.com. There's no period after the P. joshuapwarren.com. Scroll down. You'll see a picture and it says the Forces of Nature wand. You just click that picture and read all about it, watch the videos, and you'll see why this is the most popular best-selling wand that I ever created. Forces of Nature wand. And, I have a lot of new projects coming up. My goodness, wait till you hear about some of the experiment results that I have to tell you from some of the wild stuff that I've been up to recently. But while you're there at the website, joshuapwarren.com, be sure to sign up for the free e-newsletter. It takes you 2 seconds. Just put your name in there, and that way I can keep you updated instantly as new information comes out, new experiments are being done, or we get results, or there's breaking news. All that kind of stuff you're going to get nowhere else. Be sure you sign up there. If you like this podcast, I also ask that you just do one little favor for me, okay? Just share it with others. Send it to your friends and family and tell them to subscribe to the e-newsletter. And while they're there at joshuapwarren.com, clicking around, looking at amazing videos and pictures and checking out all the weird stuff in the Curiosity Shop, click the link to this podcast. It's called Joshua P. Warren Daily. You'll find that link right there on the homepage. When you click that link, you'll see that you can subscribe through various means, different platforms, Apple, Stitcher, iTunes, whatever. You can subscribe, or you can just follow me on Twitter at Joshua P. Warren, at Joshua P. Warren, and I will usually tweet when a new one is available. So that is it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your interest and support. Thank you for staying curious. And I will talk to you again soon.